Okay, we're starting to get the parts back on the engine. I got this cam gear put on here. It's nice and free. Lots of fresh grease in the grease cup as well. So that is better than it's ever been. And then we got our push rod roller assembly here. It's all ready to go. We're not going to have problems with that once we get the head back together. We'll be able to actuate that properly. And then our next step is going to be to get the flywheel back on here and get these bearing cups taken care of as well. So I will show you that, and then we'll be ready to put the piston in. Alright, and we got those lead bearings in, all greased up, and we're doing sketchy things with the hoist again. Going to try to drop that right into place. It's not perfectly lined up yet. We'll figure that out and try to get the timing right on the gear here. I'll show you once it's down. Okay, just got the flywheel in here. Don't have the bearing caps going quite yet, but managed to get the timing marks lined up that I made on that cam gear, and so far spinning pretty freely, so happy with that. And next thing we'll do is put the piston in. I'll show you guys that. Okay, so we got our main bearing caps put on now. Fresh grease in the grease cups. Everything's cleaned up and spinning nice and free. No problem still. So I just put the piston in as well. See, we got a nice heavy coated oil on that, and looks like it's gonna move in and out of there no problem. So that's great. I'm gonna get this bushing taken apart and install it here. Get this cleaned up a little bit, and yeah, a little more grease on here, and then we should be able to put on the mixer governor, and then get the head sorted out, and hopefully at that point she'll fire up. So I will show you we're getting a little further along. Okay, we got our piston in here and all buttoned up, and it's moving nice and free. Looking pretty cool. I'll give you a little view from the front too, so you can see the bore and the stroke here. Oh, it's going to stop on us, but you get the idea. Yeah. So once we get everything back together, it should slide in there nicely. Next thing I'm going to do, like I said, the governor mixer. And I'll probably put the plug igniter in last after the head. So we'll be back with that in a moment. Okay, just got the governor installed now. You can see the assembly there rotating. So that's great. And I said I was going to be doing the mixer next, but the mixer goes onto the head, so can't do the mixer without the head. So let's get into the head. I'll take you over to the bench. Okay, here's our head. Haven't done too much yet, other than get these valves freed up a little bit more. And I did fix up this butterfly action here, so got that ready to go. My next plan is just to clean this gasket surface here, and then I'll get these spring retainers off, pull the valves out, and we'll hone them in a little bit here. So I'll show you that when it gets a little more apart. Alright, I just got the spring retainers off, so you can have a look here. The valves came out. I had to clean off the one a little bit before I could even get it through the valve seat, the valve guide rather. But yeah, you can see down in there, it's not too pretty. And then here we got this guy's, I think, the intake valve. So you see the surface. I mean, it could obviously be better, but it could obviously be worse too. I mean, overall, how old it is, I'm not going to complain about that. Here's the exhaust. This one wasn't seated, like it's been sitting exposed, so a little more surface rust, but I mean, I don't know if you can see, that'll hone out. I think that'll be fine. So as long as these, valve guides in here still hold, I think we'll be okay. So I'll get that cleaned out and get these cleaned up, and I'll show you when we get ready to hone. Okay, and so here's our half-assed attempt cleaning off this surface of the head here. It does look like somebody has been through this at one point. If you look, this is a shiny piece here and here. I think they've welded this section back on. What happened is, this would get left outside, there'd be water in these water jackets, and it was really common for these heads to crack sort of along these jackets. So somebody's probably, repaired this at some point and welded a section up here. So that's cool. If you got it working, I can get it working. So here's our valves after just a couple minutes trying to get these a little more cleaned up, looking better already. So what I'm going to do now is we'll lap these valves in. I got myself some just like lapping compound, grinding compound, and what we'll do is we'll just put a smear of that on these valve surfaces. We'll reinstall the valves, and I'll just manually twist it back and forth and lap the surface here into the surface here until they're perfect fit. So I'll get that started, and I'll show you once they're lapped together. Here's just a quick shot of lapping those valves in. So it's basically just like a sand in oil solution, or sand in grease, and just matching those surfaces together. So alright, and I finished lapping the intake. You can see how this one's much shinier than the exhaust valve here. So for cast iron, again, we're going to call that good enough before we take too much material away. And then you can see here the intake valve surface. You can see where it's seating. So that shiny part is not seating, the dull part is where the seat is. And it fits in there nicely now, so yeah, should not have any problems at all with that. Forming a nice closure on the power stroke. So we'll do the same thing to the exhaust valve next, and at that point this will be ready to go back on the engine. Okay, we've got our valves back in, so intake's looking great. Exhaust is a little harder to push, bigger spring, but it'll be actuated by the push rod. It's all good there. So yeah, I just gotta figure out that gasket. Here. So it's actually copper surfaced. I think it's, like I said, asbestos in the center. So I'm probably just gonna try to clean it up with Scotch-Brite and reuse. It looks to be in decent condition. So I will do that, and I'll meet you back over with the motor to install this. Alright, that's kind of funny because in the car world, hey, my head gasket exploded. Is anyone selling a used one? It's kind of a joke. But here you got a used head gasket, looking pretty good, I think. A little worse on that side, but we won't mention that. This will be the YouTube thumbnail side. Anyways, we're going to throw this back on the engine, and hopefully it will seal. If not, well, there's goo for that, so I'll show you that next. Okay, so we got our gasket on, got our head on, and got our push rod connected in here as well, so hopefully that will all work out. And this will, yeah, actuate something like that. Get this nice and tightened up. Hopefully we get a good seal. I'll show you after we get the bolts on. Okay. You guys probably thought I was going to put that head all the way on without putting these springs on first, but only an idiot would do that. So, yeah, here we are, all back together. And if we spin the flywheel a bit, you can see that rod moving out, actuating the exhaust valve. And if we give her a little more spin, you can actually see it sucking in there. So, get a little bit of compression anyways. So next thing I do is put on the plug igniter, so we can actually get a seal on the piston and see how that does. And we'll throw the mixer on there and it should fire up, so I'll show you that next. Alright, well, we're getting somewhere now. Didn't have a ton of compression at first, but now you can see there's our exhaust intake, and it stops on the compression. Push through it. It seems to be leaking past the rings. It might take a minute to seat, but we'll do it again. Exhaust intake, compression, and it stops. So that's what we want to see. Looks like that'll be pretty good. So happy with that. Yeah, can't push it through the compression cycle, so that should work. Mixer and fire it up.